Great.
Cool.
Thank you, Anne.
Were you ready to go?
I think we're ready to go. Thanks, Grace.
Okay. Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Grace Barslow. If I don't know you, I work with Hennepin County and manage the West Metro Water Alliance Partnership. And I'm a part of the chloride engagement subcommittee, and we've been doing a lot of work lately. One of the main things that we've been working on is Winter Salt Week. So I'll share my screen here and kind of just go through what that is exactly and some of the resources um, that you can use. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. Are you able to see my screen here?
It is coming up. There we
Okay.
go.
Cool. So like Sophie said, Winter Salt Week is coming up. It's January 26th to the 30th. Overall, Winter Salt Week is a national education and outreach initiative that focuses on raising awareness about chloride pollution from winter road salt and also works to promote strategies to reduce salt use. So the campaign really brings together governmental agencies, nonprofits, watershed groups, and also winter maintenance professionals all across the US to highlight how salt impacts freshwater, our infrastructure, and also our drinking water. Um, the week features live events, presentations, and also has ready-to-use educational resources, which I'll review here. So every day there's a live stream for Winter Salt Week, 12:30 to 1 p.m., typically during lunchtime that you can go to. Really interesting. I attended it last year and there are some great presentations. On Friday, there's a little bit longer, two different presentations that day. So this is something that you could attend or you could share with your organization or water resource professionals. Really cool events talking about new stuff going on in the chloride world. To promote Winter Salt Week, they have this promo toolkit. I'll also throw this in the chat here if I can. Um, if you want to check out the website there. Um, but there's also this promo toolkit. A lot of different resources in here. So first off, there's these press releases. They have some examples that you could tailor and yourself and use for your organization. Watershed Partners and Sophie also put out this. And so just kind of goes over why chloride is an issue and those daily live streams that we have going on. If you do have like an event or something going on in your area too, that would be a really good thing to put on this press release and get some media coverage for perhaps. We also have these proclamation resources on here, and I'll pull that up. Um, so just in general, this just urges folks, residents, businesses, state departments to take part in activities that promote responsible use of de-icing salts and also encourage adoption of winter maintenance strategies that maintain safety while reducing environmental harm. So, you know, we've been encouraging organizations that we work with to sign on to this proclamation. I know a lot of folks are, so this is a really great thing that your organization could do or, share with partners that you work with as well. Next, there's this newsletter template that you'll find in the promo toolkit. This pretty self-explanatory, but just something that you could put in an email out to partners or residents in general. You could, put it in a newsletter, of course. You could put it on your social media pages, and just promote the live streams and, edit it as you see fit. Then something else I wanted to highlight, which I think Lindsay has talked about before, but Lindsay with Dakota County created this Salty Dog educational resources to put into libraries. Um, and it just focuses on promoting chloride education for youth and kids that are in the libraries. So, really cool resources in here. They have this Salty Dog activity book that has like different word searches and activities for kids. cute bookmarks with different educational information. There's this button template, so you could print buttons, or I actually used it to do different sticker designs too. So that's an option. And then they have these really cool scavenger hunts that you can put throughout your libraries to um, that just engage kids in that chloride education. So those are great. I know Dakota County is doing it and a lot of other people. Hennepin County is putting this into all 41 of our libraries. And then we have some really great volunteers and some folks on the Chloride Engagement Committee that will be tabling at different libraries too to just enhance that education and talk to folks about chloride pollution. So whether you can get it in your libraries this year or something that you can look towards next year, this is a really cool educational resource, and huge shout out to Lindsay for making this last year. Um, and then lastly, I just wanted to highlight this page. This is local events that are happening um, during Winter Salt Week or kind of around Winter Salt Week. So you can see they kind of go by state here. I don't think this is totally up to date. And also, if you have an event that's happening in your area that you don't see on here, you can fill out this form right here and add it to the page. But cool stuff happening, like in Plymouth, we have this winter maintenance open house, and so that's really for all residents to see how winter maintenance functions, I guess. In the city of Plymouth, Edina is doing a proclamation at a city council meeting. This is a really great workshop that folks could attend, MPCA Smart Salting for Community Leaders. That would be really great for us or other folks at your organization that are working on chloride pollution. So, um, yeah, those are the resources that we have. And overall, if anybody is interested in the Chloride Engagement Committee as well, I'll throw my contact information in the chat too. But mainly, we focus on education on chloride pollution. We've been focusing a lot on the Low Salt, No Salt Minnesota campaign and getting folks trained in to use that campaign. But kind of talk about all things chloride. So if you have questions on the committee or if you just want to, shadow a meeting, whatever, shoot me an email and we'll get you added or I'll talk with you through it. So any questions on Winter Salt Week or the Chloride Engagement Committee?
Grace, would you want to just mention when the Chloride Engagement Committee meets?
Oh,
Because I know
yeah.
they often meet outside of our normal meeting times as well.
Yes, we do. So we've been meeting the same day as the Watershed Partners meeting right after. I think it's 11 to 11:45. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, that's the time we've been meeting. We're not meeting today because we just had a meeting a couple weeks ago in preparation for Winter Salt Week. So um, next meeting will be in February.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
And it looks like Lindsay posted in the chat that Lindsay made blank button templates that can be sent to anyone that has a button maker and wants to let kids color them before making buttons on site. That is awesome. Oh, awesome. Sounds like the governor's office accepted the Winter Salt Week proclamation. Thanks, Jess. And yes, the Adopt a Drain team plans to send out Winter Salt Week information to all of the Adopt a Drain Minnesota participants. Great. And yeah, Grace's information is in the chat. So if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out. You can also reach out to me and I'll connect you with the right folks. All right, our next agenda item is checking out our new digital resource library space. So I will turn it over to Anne to kind of orient us to that. Very exciting. That looks good, Anne, but you are muted.
In the year 2026, I still forget about mute. Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to introduce our digital resource library, which we'll get into it a little bit more, but if anyone has a better name for that, or a more interesting name, I'm totally taking suggestions, but my creativity for that is completely not anywhere. So um, get into a little bit more about what we're trying to do, but what we want to do is pull together all of the resources in a system that makes it really easy for watershed partners to both search, download, use them, as well as submit ones if they wanted to share it for the group, edit them, kind of keep them more up to date and a lot more usable. So at the moment, we have a huge number of Google Drive folders that have a lot of images that people can try to go through. It's hard to search, hard to find them. They're also missing videos or social media posts or documents or other things that would be useful. So we want to put them all into one place. So there's one easy place to get those resources. Settled on Resource Space as the system to use. It's a digital asset management system. That system works with a lot of nonprofits, educational institutions, cultural organizations, those sorts of groups. That allows images, recordings, videos, documents, audio files, all of those sorts of different types of materials. And we can set up access to those resources by group. So we can say this should be available to the public. This should be available to watershed partners. This, I'm still working on it, should only be available to me. So it's got a really granular access. We can allow multiple people to submit a resource, to edit resources, and to search for resources. And it also allows you to relate alternate versions of resources together. So if you were looking at one thing, you can see that it's, you could see the Adobe Acrobat file as well as JPEG or other versions of that file. We can also actually set it so that only some people or some groups are able to see, for instance, the original high resolution file, or make it available for all. So there's a lot of ability to set things up on the back end. And then we can also search for and organize these resources by different properties. I'll kind of talk about what that means. But basically, you take a resource. In this case, it's the Low Salt, No Salt Facilitator Guide. And we can describe it by a number of different things. So one is a calendar, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But the idea is that we really want to organize these materials around a calendar of resources so that we can pull together, here in January are resources you might want to use. Here's a February set of resources you might want to use. But we also are adding information about what is the topic that it's covering, in this case, salt or chloride. Is there a specific geography that it's covering? Subjects, like does it have humans? Does it have animals in it? What kind of infrastructure? Is this really focused on roads versus storm drains versus sidewalks? Is it specific to an event? And then we can add notes. In this case, as documents, we can add extracts. So what this is showing here is the visual of, if we make, which we will, this particular resource open to the public, a public link would have a link to download the file, a link to view the file in the browser, and then kind of information about it. So really quickly, that calendar of topics, this kind of came out of the digital resources subcommittee, where we really wanted to develop a calendar of what kind of topics do we want to make sure that we've got resources around that we can share out that people can use in newsletters, postings, other things like that. So this, I believe, is already on the Mobilize site, but we can make it available if it's not. Yeah, that's our calendar. So again, we can make resources available through the public. So for instance, on the Low Salt, No Salt Minnesota Toolbox online, we can make that facilitator guide available for anyone to download. And anyone would have availability to it because we need to make those public. So some of our materials we want to have public, some of them we may want to only have available for watershed partners. For the watershed partners, we'll have access to log into with a kind of a watershed partner user to be able to search through all of the resources. So in this case, winter snow sidewalk pulled up 22 results of posts, but also images. So some of them are straight images, some of them are posts that might be easier to just put directly into social media. We can also set it up so that some people can have editor access, and we can set up anyone who wants to. So for instance, if someone from the chloride committee wanted to have editor access for all of the chloride committee resources, they could easily replace the file with an updated file that would replace it immediately for anyone who follows that link. Or they could add a different notes about it or excerpt. We can also, and we'll also set up a link so that anyone in the Watershed Partners can submit an item to the library if they'd like to. If they've put something together that they want to share out, they can put that puts it into a queue to be, you can pull it off of your device, add information about what it is, what it's covering, what topics. It's a pretty straightforward click the ones that are relevant. But then it goes into a queue where we can review it, make sure the metadata is correct. It's got all of the information that we want to have shared. Think about whether we want to make it public or make it available to watershed partners. So where we are on the project, kind of see this being, CG is doing a lot of the getting things in, but the Digital Resources Subcommittee is also doing a lot of work and kind of thinking about the format. We have uploaded and described 264 resources so far, continuing to add to that all the time. We're trying to get winter-related resources up first. We are then creating collections. So we have a collection called the Low Salt, No Salt Minnesota Toolbox. We will have a collection called February that will have resources that kind of fit that February calendar. We'll create public links when appropriate. For instance, the Low Salt, No Salt Minnesota Toolbox, creating that submission link for anyone to submit items if you'd like. Create that general user that allows you to log in, search the whole library, download anything you need whenever you want. And then admin users for anyone who would like to be able to edit, publish, and review items. So that could be digital resource subcommittee members, that could be chloride committee members. If there's another task force around another topic or another event that wants to then take on that, we can set them up again to have access to edit those resources and training for them as well. So that is where we are with that. Hoping to have those links and everything ready to go before the end of the month. Things got a little slowed down this month, but we're continuing to move on that and spend a ton of help from Camille, who is our social media person in helping to get everything together. Will metadata include alternative text? That is a fantastic question, and it absolutely, yes, we should do that. Yes, and yeah, the library is not yet on Mobilize. So that's as we get that set up with that link, we will have that on Mobilize. So that's
sorry,
kind of,
I I somehow thought interpreted you saying that it was already posted, but
The calendar of topics.
okay,
That
yep,
was it. Yeah.
yeah.
And then that can have links again to those specific collections for each month. But again, we can make collections. It's a very flexible in making collections around any kind of thing, if that's useful. So that's a quick overview of what that looks like. Other questions?
This is Leah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Maybe I missed this, but if my colleague that leads our education here at CCWMO wants to use any of these resources, is it up and running yet, or is it still a work in progress?
It is not, we don't have the access link yet for people to download things, but that should be coming like this month.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
And yes, they would be welcome to log in and use resources. Okay, Jane, I'll check on that calendar of topics and I'll make sure that it's on there before I do anything else. But yeah, that maybe was only shared in the digital resources group. So it would be on Mobilize under documents, I believe. And so if it's not there, I'll get it up there. Yeah, Mary has a question about whether anyone else is using Resource Space or another digital asset management tool. I would love to hear if anyone else is using any other dam systems. Awesome.
Well, thank you, Anne. I assume if folks have further questions, they can reach out to you directly.
Absolutely. And if people think it's a cool thing to organize resources and play with metadata, they should join the digital resources subcommittee. We do other things too, but that's like thinking about how we're going to organize them and pull them together. But you should join our subcommittee.
Well, thank you. And I know a couple folks have joined in the past 20 minutes or so, so I'm just going to reshare our agenda in the chat if you did not get a chance to see that when you came in. So yeah, if you trickled in a little late, we chatted about Winter Salt Week. We heard from Grace, and you can reach out to Grace if you have further questions about that. And then Anne just wrapped up sharing about our new digital resource library space. And now we're going to transition into talking about our survey results from the Watershed Partners survey that went out at the tail end of last year. So I'll spend a few minutes sharing out some summaries and takeaways from that. And that'll kind of feed into our discussion in our subcommittee groups. All right. Are folks able to see my screen? Yes. Okay, awesome. All right, so we had 19 respondents. So thank you so much for taking the time to fill out the survey. I know we really appreciate your feedback. And the survey was kind of broken into four main parts, kind of like our meeting structure, topics for our meetings and for the group, resources, so how we're sharing resources and what types of resources folks are interested in, and then other general comments. So in the meetings category, we had a question about kind of our current mix of meetings. So in 2025, we did half and half. So we had 5 virtual meetings and 5 in-person meetings. And kind of the takeaways from that were that people like having the mix of those. A general consensus was that folks feel they're often able to engage a little bit better at in-person meetings, which definitely seems like the trend. But also folks like having the option for virtual meeting for accessibility, and just ease of attendance. So kind of moving forward, it seems like we're all on the general same page about liking having the mix. But then we also did ask for recommendations from folks about locations for our in-person meetings. And a few people mentioned checking with our city partners about meeting room availability at city offices. Folks suggested that having in-person meetings alternate to different spots around the metro is definitely a good idea, so no one is always having to commute a long way. Local nature centers came up, and then we had a couple specific requests for tours. And then moving into our topics. So folks chose their favorite topics from our 2025 meetings. People were able to select multiple choices. And it was a pretty even spread. So the number next to each one is how many votes it received. The 2 highest scoring topics from 2025 were chloride engagement and the intersection of art and water. So you can take a minute and read through our different topics. And the community climate leaders was the one that was shared at our June boat ride. And then we asked about idea suggestions for 2026 and beyond meeting topics. One that came up quite a few times were different ideas around traditional ecological knowledge and water quality, Indigenous connections, hearing from more Indigenous speakers on the work they've been doing. So that definitely emerged as a really popular idea, and one that we'll definitely take back to the team. Also, ways to enliven public input opportunities, highlighting different projects around the metro, wildlife and habitat corridors, the Metro Water Resource Recovery Facility tour, ADA website accessibility requirements, Project WET came up, and then the idea of event attendance. And then moving into resources, we posed a question about the existing resources we have available that people find most helpful. And so below is the spread of those. Again, people were able to select multiple different options. So the listserv was the highest scoring one, adopt a drain outreach materials, physical exhibits for checkout, the Clean Water Minnesota website, resources, and the shared photo library. And that's the photo library that's currently on the Google Drive, but will be moving to resource space. And then we gathered some suggestions from folks about other resources we could consider. And so quite a few of them were centered on media, social media, digital resources, and templates that can be used and edited to meet MS4 requirements. And then also, revitalizing certain things on the Clean Water Minnesota website came up. Art-related requests came up multiple times, so strengthen access to arts engaged outreach, leading campaigns about seasonal clean water practices that incorporate art. And then a specific suggestion for Katie Black's climate change tool pack and conversation strategies for adaptation. So thank you. Thank you to all of you who submitted ideas. These are awesome. And then we asked for kind of general comments, and a couple themes emerged around kind of thinking about our vision as watershed partners, and making sure that while we're still highlighting the things that we're doing well, we're also looking ahead to what can continue to help partners best meet their MS4 needs, and collaboration opportunities, touching on what the long-term vision for the group is and how we can continue refreshing that and making it relevant, supporting new resources and tools for members, especially MS4 related tools, and then a few specific ideas were shared about collaboration with specific local groups and entities. So we just wanted to pause for a moment after that, and just share the current Watershed Partners mission, and maybe just pause for a little bit of personal reflection after I read through it. Feel free to jot down notes if you have them. And then we'll have maybe a couple minutes if folks want to share anything with the group, any initial thoughts. But then this will also kind of guide our subcommittee group discussions. So currently, the Watershed Partners mission is twofold. It is to provide and promote collaborative watershed education programs with consistent messages to the general public, local government staff, and elected officials, and to provide Watershed Partners members a place and means to share information, generate ideas, and coordinate and support collaborative watershed education programs. So kind of our guiding question is for all of us, is this mission still aligned with the Watershed Partners vision for 2026? Are there certain areas that we should be leaning more towards than others? Yeah, maybe let's just take a couple minutes of personal reflection here just to think about that and how it relates to your world. And then we'll open it up if there are any initial thoughts. All right, we'll just take one more minute to finish up personal reflections. And I will reshare the Watershed Partners mission in the chat so that it's documented. All right. And I'll just open it up if there are any initial thoughts that folks wanted to share before we go into our breakout rooms. Feel free to raise your hand. Yeah, Jess.
Thanks. So I have a few reactions to the mission. The first one that's just like generally a trigger for me is the word education, because that feels like a one-way conversation then, right? I'm going to educate you. I have something to tell you, and I'm going to tell you until you agree with me. So I wonder if we're going to like take a look at the mission, if we might just like think about a more collaborative word, like engagement feels two-way, right? I have something to learn as a person who's trying to also say something. So I that word always just kind of jumps out at me, education. We also say we're going to educate local government staff, and I feel like we are. This is a coalition of local government staff, so it feels also kind of paternal to say you're gonna train us or educate us on what to. I don't know. It might be a more like give credit where credit is due. Make it less paternal. And then the other thing about the mission, I think right now is it makes space for collaboration, but it doesn't drive an outcome. So we're saying like, yep, we hold meetings, we talk, we engage with each other, but I'd like to see something that's a little more like more movement, right? Here's what we're gonna do. So instead of just make space for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Jess. Any other initial thoughts? We'll have time to chat more with subcommittees as well. And this is an ongoing discussion, so this won't be the only chance to come back to this.
Maybe first, oh, sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
That's
Does
okay.
Ann and Sophie maybe just speak to like if this is an ongoing conversation, what would be the process of editing the mission? I think Jess had a couple small suggestions that could be considered edits, and that would be beneficial to us as an organization. But what's process?
Yeah, I think we're kind of still in the phase of figuring out what that process is. So, um, yeah, if folks have ideas of how that seems like it would be a fair process, um, maybe the steering committee comes together and tweaks a few things and brings another draft back to the group. Yeah, there are a lot of different ways it could look. So we're still kind of open to that. Yeah, Lori.
Hi. I'm just gonna say so. I was part of Watershed Partners like way back in the day when it started. One of the things that I think has shifted over time, and I don't know that I'm not saying it's bad. It's just kind of fact of the matter is that the organization was formed as a way of doing MS4 education, and I know watershed districts have increased their education game, and that's good. I mean, we're all on the same team, or outreach, engagement, all of those things, right? So I think there's a lot that's good that's going on in that. I think there's an opportunity to bring MS4s back into the fold. And what I see potentially even, because I know like when I talk to my MS4 colleagues, the price tag of being part of Watershed Partners is cost prohibitive for a lot of our smaller MS4s. And we're talking like 100 communities here. So there's a statewide, there's a lot of possible audience for this. And so what I'm thinking is if there is a way to provide some sort of a toolbox for these small cities, especially. I'm thinking like Landfall and Mankato Township and all of these other little places throughout the state where they can get access to like high quality MS4 related like required things because we have a permit that has very specific requirements, and I think there's just an opportunity to dovetail that's being missed. So I just want to encourage us to think about that opportunity, and I don't think it means changing everything. I think it means being mindful of opportunities that we have to increase the audience and the potential. And if there's like a lower cost MS4 pack that people could get access to just for the stuff that they're required so they can check boxes on their permit, that might be a worthwhile step to take. So the lady with the gray hair bringing the perspective and the background.
Thank you so much, Lori. All right. So yeah, we'll maybe go into our subcommittee breakout rooms for a bit. This discussion can continue in your subcommittee breakout room. But we also wanted to just pose a couple guiding questions for each group, just given the survey results that we went over. And I'll post these questions in the chat too. And we will also share the survey results summary as a document. So I will post that in the chat so y'all can reference that. But we're curious, as a subcommittee, based on what sort of themes emerged as topics of interest, does your subcommittee want to organize a meeting around one of those topics in 2026? Or are there topics your subcommittee wants to address more broadly? For example, like the Digital Resources Committee might address pulling together more content based on some of that feedback about like templates or social media content. Or the Care Committee might be interested in addressing the ADA website requirements suggestion. So yeah, those are kind of your guiding questions. The breakout rooms are created and I will open them. And then we'll come back together after about 20 minutes or so just to recap as a group.